Welcome back to the mighty Pir Panjal range, one of my favorite places in the Western Himalayas in India. A high range of 5,500-meter high snow-covered peaks separating the Chamba Valley from the high ranges of Lahore. This is module 16 in the Himalayan webinar series, live every day, 8 o'clock on Zoom, videos posted on Insta TV, my blog, and YouTube. Here we can see a beautiful picture of the Kalicho Pass, one of the 6 passes I will be discussing today across these beautiful snow-capped Pir Panjal range. Shepherds cross these ranges twice a year, once at the beginning of the summer to go graze the high alpine meadows of Lahore and Pangi Valley, basically to have better quality milk and meat as they take sometimes up to 1,000 animals across these treacherous passes. We'll talk about 6 main passes which I crossed last time, 2018, 2019, the Kuchti, the Cheni, the Chobia, the Marhu, the Darati, and the Kalicho passes. All pretty tough things. You don't meet any hikers here as in Ladakh in the Marka Valley. This is something for the not faint-hearted. Here again, at the base of the Pir Panjal, below the Darati Pass, you can see several shepherds at the beginning of the summer 2019, somewhere end of June, beginning of July, waiting to cross over the passes as they open these passes actually themselves. These have to be freed of snow. Passages have to be made near the pass as it's completely snow covered still, especially this year due to the heavy snowfall in the previous winter. Here you can see the passes. They range from 4,300 all the way to 5,040 meters. And most of them, independent of the altitude, it's all about the climb and the descent. Most of them require almost 2,000 to 3,000 meter climb versus descent over a very steep landscape, as you will see on the terrain maps. We hop over between Chamba on the southern side and Lahore and Pangi Valley on the northern side. Most of these passes are really difficult, or at least moderate plus from my point of view. Okay, let's take a look at the 3-dimensional view of the Himalayas here. We have again Uttarakhand and Himachal, which we have been discussing in the last several modules. In Himachal Pradesh, in the last 2 modules, we looked at the beautiful Dolador here, the initial 4,000 meter high wall that you can see, where the foothills of rising up fast from the foothills of the Himalayas and leading to the interior Chamba Valley here, right? So you can see the Dolador stretching from Dharmasala, Palampur, Bajinath, and then taking a turn somewhere there along the Manali Kulu Valley. So if we go a little bit interior, right, here you have the Chamba Valley again with Mani Mahesh Kailash, one of 5 Shiva's adobes in the Himalayas. You come across another range, slightly higher here, 5 to 5,500 meter peaks in between, which separates the Chamba Valley here. Here you have Barmor, Hatsar, and here you have Udaipur located in the Chenab River Valley. Chenab River, another name for the Chandra Bagha, which at the confluence in near Keelung at Kandi, you have the Bagha here coming from the Bara Chala Pass and the Chandra coming from Chandra Tal Lake, merging together in a big stream that cuts straight through the Himalayas and flows towards Jammu and Kashmir. Let's bring up some passes here, voila, and 2018, thank you. So if we start at the eastern side, we come first across the Kuchti Pass. As you can see, these passes actually are located in saddles in low areas between subsequent peaks. Not all of the saddles are used as by shepherd. There is also no point in putting in a pass over every saddle. But regular distances basically between the Chenab River Valley in Lahore and here Chamba, you'll have these passes. Typically leading from one side valley, starting from Chamba to another side valley that eventually merges with the Chandra Bagha River. Voila, so if we proceed further west, we come next on the Chobia Pass, one of the most treacherous passes that I crossed myself in 2018. Then we come to the official most treacherous one, the Calicho, which kind of was not too bad for me last year. Then proceeding further to the left here, we can see a small dip in the Pir Panjal, reaching to the Chorassi Pass, which is more an interior pass leading from north or east to west Chamba. Staying on the main Dolador, we come then around the very steep Garati Pass leading to the village of Tindi, which at the other side again you can see the high ranges ranging up again, separating the Mayar Valley and the Pangi Valley here, the Sechu Valley. This is also part of the Pir Panjal and separates on the east Lahore, on the west Pangi Valley. So that's more like a geopolitical split, as it's kind of the same valley that flows through this range. We have then the Margu Pass, also accessible from the Tindi side. And then further to the left, finally, we come across the Cheney Pass, which is located next to the Saj Pass, from where you have a motorable road from Chamba into Chenab. Okay, so here again, we see the same thing with all the names mentioned, right? Here, the Chenab River Valley, Lahore on the right side, and Pangi Valley on the left side. Here, the famous Saj and Saj Pass that most people are familiar with. Here you have various villages, Kukhti, Sirikau, Chobia, Barmor, and other places from where you start hiking up these passes. Okay, let's take a look at the 6 beautiful passes, starting with the Kukhti Pass. Here you can see a shepherd at the end of the summer of 2018, climbing up from the Lahore side, going back home with 500 sheep in his footsteps, loaded completely with his all his gears, which he was using for 4 or 5 months, staying in these high alpine meadows here. Blankets, clothing, tarpaulin sheets typically to cover himself, food. Normally they carry bags of rice and atta flour, cooking utensils. So quite heavily loaded with just basic non-carbon poles, a simple wooden stick, a 60 rupee rubber shoe, and that's it. Here is climbing up, as usual, through loose Scree, loose kind of moraines below the pass, heavily eroded high ranges, heavily eroded partly, and because these are fully covered by snow, heavy snow in the winter, which then melts and kind of keeps breaking down the landscape. Here you see which you could see as a vertical glacier or an icefall on the other side. Here you can see the same pass after crossing. Beautiful views on the valleys leading to Lahore. This will lead to the village with the same name, Kukhti Valley, which is the last village in the Barmor side of the Chamba Valley. Amazing spectacle to see 500 sheep crossing through these passes. Let's take a look at one video. So here you can see almost a kilometer long line of sheep coming over from Lahore, Kukhti there, and then crossing over into Chamba here. No trail, just straight over the Moraines, over the Scree, into beautiful Chamba here on this side. Views on Chamba are always stunning because it's like very steep down and lush green below. Voila, the animals kind of follow the leading shepherd, guided by the doggies who keep them safe from predators at night in the high ranges like the snow leopard. There you can see probably Mani Mahesh Kailash in front. And here, as we saw in the previous photo, the icefall, almost like a vertical glacier hanging from the extremely sharp Pir Panjal range above. Okay, so here we have then the sweeper shepherd, which brings in the party down along a narrow ridge initially over rocks and Scree again, to eventually settle down grazing again in the meadows below. Second pass is the Cheney Pass, beautiful pass, which is accessed from a small village of Tepa in Chamba. Here I crossed somewhere early in the summer, I think, of 2018. Beautiful pink alpine flowers. As I mentioned, every flower has its favorite altitude. So as you go up, the color keeps changing from pink to blue to red to yellow. As usual, in where there's an alpine meadow, the shepherds are not far away. At the base of the Cheney Pass here, some friendly shepherds who's upon seeing one lonely traveler immediately started milking the goat and preparing some undiluted fresh goat milk, giving me enough energy to cross over the steep Cheney Pass. Here you can see almost near the top of the pass, beautiful glacier there with bright yellow alpine flowers. As I said, as you go higher, you have different colors, different types of alpine flowers that flourish. Amazing views on the Pir Panjal with big glaciers hanging from them. Here again, we're looking into the Chamba Valley straight below there. The shepherds were sitting here somewhere before I climbed up. Through the meadows, through the Scree again. Here I lost completely the trail. Eventually, after 1 hour of searching, the trail was going behind one waterfall, totally unexpected. And finally, you can see the little trail here, which goes through these yellow alpine flowers, reaching the pass. Okay, the next one is the Chobia, which was the most treacherous in the year 2018.
Birth of another stream at the base of the Chobia Glacier. Huge, thick layer of ice buried under rubble. Big ice wall.
Actually, they are like a sheet of ice, which is almost 100-meter thick, completely hanging inside that valley. On top of the glaciers, you have what we call these moraines. This is all the rubble and the erosion, right, that happens from the high ranges and then gets moved along over hundreds and hundreds of years down the valley by the glaciers into the valleys below. Walking across this, you can imagine, is quite a task, given the fact that many of these big boulders, sometimes the sizes of entire metro buses, make you feel like a small ant walking through a huge rocky landscape. And again, any of these can topple anytime as they are located on a melting ice sheet. Here is the Chobia Pass. So initially we come through landslides, then we end up in moraines. Next we'll be coming onto a heavily crevassed glacier hanging on this side of the Pir Panjal range. Here's the Pir Panjal indicated in pink. You got the Chobia Pass pretty high at 5,000 meter altitudes, after which you steep down amazingly deep, almost 1,200 meters, until Peter van Geit, making the usual mistake, crossing the pass too late, as he wants to do it in a single day. Get stuck in a whiteout, the weather changes in the evening, and I completely lose the trail of the sheep. 500 sheep disappeared in no man's in thin air. And I basically have, in order to go but to settle down at a very high altitude, exposed to the weather there, which is pretty cold in the night, open winds. It started raining. Peter van Geit lost his tent the previous day in the Meyer Valley. So quite a nightly experience that time. Here you can see again the great glacier actually below Chobia Pass. So big sheets of ice hanging and melting from the top of the Pir Panjal range, and then in the valley you can see the ice, the meltwater cuts deep inside the glacier. It all flows beneath the glacier eventually and gives birth to a stream. So let's take a walk across these glaciers together.
Join me for a small walk on the glacier below Chobia. Heavily crevassed all around us. Come.
Very deep cuts.
Crevasses.
To be caused by recent climate change.
Pair of ice poles is quite handy here, not to fall inside those deep craters behind us. Heavy crevasses.
So quite tricky to walk across this, right? There's no multiple levels here in this game. It's one game and game over if you slip inside. Then the Chobia Pass itself is a natural beauty. I'm not sure if this is human-made or natural, but you have this narrow doorway almost that leads from La Hole to Chamba. You can see the glacier there from high above at 5,000 meters. Getting down again, as usual in Chamba, is like a treat for the eyes, cloud covered towards the afternoon, and extremely beautiful and green on that side. Here you can see the poor chap getting stuck too late and losing his way completely, stuck on all sides by vertical drops late in the evening, and then having no other choice than to survive under a few tarpaulin sheets in the cold night. Until the next morning, the weather clears up, and 30 minutes later, Peter is having a cup of tea with these shepherds who just, but staying like some 500 meters below me, but again, impossible to find in dense fog. And then on the other side was the fifth surprise waiting for me, the fact that due to heavy rains the previous days, all these makeshift bridges by the shepherds had actually been flushed away by the stream. And we actually got stuck on one side of the valley. We could not cross the stream anymore, impossible without bridges. So we're actually walking on these near vertical slopes. Lucky there were a couple of shepherds with me, because we basically don't follow the trail here going left, right of the valley. We simply proceed on a steep one side of the valley. This is an amazing guy, 72 years young. He was leading the pack. He was walking faster than a mountain goat. Even the ultra runner on the right side could actually not keep up with him in this trailless terrain where you actually walk on a slope of a valley. And as we reached his home in Serikau village, amazing hospitality. It was just one of these Hindi festivals where the sisters tie that bracelet on the brother's hand, and they invited me into their family for yummy food and wonderful locally brewed drinks. All right, then the next pass, the Marhu Pass, also not very well known, totally undocumented, so I didn't have much of the route here except for these satellite map references that I had studied. On the base of the Marhu Pass at the Chamba site, we'll have these gujars in beautiful homes with these big wooden beams, actually, like huge trees. They have made these primitive open shelters in which they stay together with their animals. And then you will even have these huge buffaloes which will be resting on top of these solid rooftops. Here we climb up, after we pass through the forests where the Gujars are staying, we climb up finally through the contouring actually to the Marhu Pass as usual, because it's too steep to climb up straight. So in many cases, shepherds will approach the passes from either the left or the right side of the valley, coming across these, again, snow gullies, which make a little bit slippery. You can see the long trail of the sheep poop going through this before me. At the other side, into La Hole again, you can see steep, nearly vertical drop. You can see 500 sheep, some 500 meters below me. No trail, just you walk straight through this. The only route guidance I have here is the exposed soil on top of the rocks, which shows that some animals have passed this way. Otherwise, there is absolutely no trail here to find your way. Then seeing the same herd from the bottom, you can see that it's not like a straight walk down the Chinap River Valley. It's basically a maze, a labyrinth of sections where you can proceed down through all these vertical sections. Let's take a peek here as the sheep come down these steep verticals into the Chinap River Valley. Yeah.
Massive herd of sheep descending down steep rock faces from the Marhu Pass, coming from Chamba and getting towards Pangi and La Hole. Some 5 shepherds and a couple of dogs are guiding them through steep vertical cliffs, narrow gullies, waterfalls, into the meadows below, where they will probably set up camp for the day. There you can see the Chinap River Valley below the high ranges of La Hole.
Voila. So here, similar thing. As I come down from the Marhu Pass, I cross these shepherds, which actually halt a little bit higher. I wanted to proceed towards Tindi village. But again, the weather changes here, not any fog this time, but becomes cold and rainy at quite a high altitude. Not able to, again, clearly find the path anymore. A little bit tired, saying doing a one-day pass crossing. So I decide to actually settle down keep myself dry, at least for the coming night, as I come across this nice cave. Try to cook something, but again, everything seems to be soaked, unable to make a fire. Nice pleasant stay, as you see. Rule number one, you get out of the wind, so you don't need a tent or a bivy. You can sleep in the open as long as you've got the cold night wind. Here then finally we come into this idyllic Tindi village on top of, you can see there the Chandrabhaga or the Chenab River Valley just inside Lahore here. Very beautiful place, very remote. This is one of my favorite places where I used to run through the Pangi and Chenab River Valley. But this time coming from the high passes above, pick up some aloo parotas here, and again I'm on my way up to the next adjacent pass, the Darati Pass. Above Tindi village, high above the Chenab River, you will get beautiful alpine meadows and here full of colorful flowers as you make your way up to the Pir Panjal again. 2018 met this gentleman playing the flute in this beautiful environment, so heavily experienced. So then climbing up higher again, you come from the meadows into rock and in finally snow. Here it was pretty easy to follow the track of the sheep as they have made like a 3-lane highway, contouring again from the right side to reach up to the Darati Pass here. So you can see from the Lahore side, it's a pretty kind of gradual approach, even though we're also contouring, making it less steep. But on the other side, again, same story, almost 1,500 meters steep drop down into the Chamba Valley, near vertical rock faces. And here again, Peter van Geit seems to become a habit, gets lost again, not by whiteouts, not by a fog, but by using the trail completely there. The sheep tracks that I was following, which were pretty clear in the snow, also clear on the other side initially, completely vanished at one place. Unable to find it for more than an hour searching left, right, everywhere steep vertical drops. So decided to pitch up camp for the night, chop up my aloo parotas from Tindi, settle down and hope for better luck the next morning. So here you can see the Pir Panjal range again, beautiful. I mean, look at that steep ridge running between Chamba and Lahore, cutting the Himalayas, actually the lower and the higher Himalayas in 5,500 meter high. You can see a small mandir there at the top of the Rati Pass, where shepherds typically offer their prayers for a safe crossing. Then here, let's descend into the Lahore Valley next.
We are standing on top of the Darati Pass at 4,580 meters altitude. One of the several passes on the Pir Panjal range. Down below is where we came from. The pass has been opened by shepherds, so I could step onto a nice trail. Down there you can see Tindi village below the high ranges of Ladakh. The whole side of the pass is mostly covered in snow. Beautiful views here. And on the right side we have Chamba. Somewhere down there should be Datwin, my next base towards the Chorasi Pass. Looks like the sheep have been going on this little ridge here. You can see the trail of poop steep down into the valley on this small ridge.
Voila. Here then, as we get down from the Darati Pass, we follow pretty steep ridge going down, and here is actually the place where I get completely stuck. Left steep, straight steep, right steep, impossible to find how these thousands of animals have crossed this place. So settle down. In the night here, you can see the bottom view. Same Darati Pass at 4,600 meters, 1,500 meter drop before you actually step firm foothold on these alpine meadows where the trail becomes clear only then. In between, actually, you simply try to figure out using at the exposed soil on deposits on the rocks, used the pee, the urine, the poop on these rocks to try to follow how these animals actually went through this near vertical labyrinth to come down this pass. So here I basically settled down for the night with some pleasant music of melting glaciers here, big rocks falling down with a lot of noise into the valley as the glaciers keep melting in the night from the previous days. And morning again, I'm lucky, I hear the sound of sheep, which kind of show me the way how to get down. So then at the base, I met a lot of these shepherds waiting for their turn to go up one by one. They actually go up one by one, as it's too risky, right, with falling rocks by these hundreds of animals stepping over these slopes before the next party gets up there. At the base here also, again, we are in the Chamba site. We find gujas as usual, and amazing shelters here, big beams on the roof with their animals staying on top. Typically, very friendly people will invite you into their home with innocent hospitality, give you food, stay, and guidance on your way. Then the final pass, the Calicho Pass, considered as the most treacherous start from the Tunda Life Wild Sanctuary here near the village of, let me move myself, Badra. To reach Badra itself, you already need to walk a day from the nearest roadhead. A little bit not easy to find, but near some kind of mandir, some famous temple. From there, you climb up again across the ridge. In the valley, the old trail is destroyed by a recent landslide, so you climb up high and then again come down to the base of the Calicho Pass, to a small settlement of Bansar Koti, where you still find one family and a couple of houses. Only one is alive there. Remains the olden tradition of staying in the mountains along with their animals in an open shelter where I get hosted for the night. The next morning, I hear from the locals that the shepherds have gone ahead of me, so I try hard to catch up, as I don't have a clue about the trail up the Calicho. You can see the Calicho is steep up there on those near vertical ranges here of the Pir Panjal, no trail. So again, you have to follow the dirt and the poop left behind by these animals, climb up these steep rocks to find your way finally across these snow paths made by the shepherds when they open the passes to the Calicho Pass here, getting over the Pir Panjal. Here you can see another beautiful picture of the sheep walking high above the Chamba Valley as they cross the Calicho Pass. Here the guys that I was trekking for almost all the day, finally catching up at the La Hole site after they reach back into safe ground. Voila, this was the Pir Panjal, one of my most favorite places in the Himalayas. Stunning landscape, amazing places as only traversed by those shepherds for generations, and no hikers. A lot of Gujar mountain tribes on the Chamba sites offering amazing hospitality. And this is one of the most intense and unique experiences of my 2 summers in the high passes of the Himalayas. See you tomorrow for an exploration of the beautiful Sarab River Valley